President Bola Tinubu has emphasized the necessity of collaborative governance for building a strong, united Nigeria, underscoring that the task is a collective responsibility of all arms of government and segments of society. Tonight, let's speak with Honorable Ogene Ego. He's a former member of the Federal House of Reps, 8th and 9th Assembly, and is also former member of ECOWAS Parliament, as President Bola Tinubu urges collaborative efforts in rebuilding Nigeria. Honorable, good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on Politics Tonight.
Thank you. I'm honored to be around.
Right. So, President Bola Tinubu has consistently called for unity of purpose and more collaboration between the federal government, state governors, and the members of the National Assembly to achieve national development goals. But today, we heard former President Olusegun Obasanjo say that maintaining that the practice of high morality in public and private life is the key to world betterment. So I'm asking you, beyond policy formulation, how fundamental is this renewed call for unity of purpose across all divides?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's very apt that the President is talking about national cohesion now that we've just had protests which lasted for about 10 days. These protests have kind of divided the nation. You can see that a lot of the states in the south did not participate. Some of the states did not participate to various degrees. And a lot of Nigerians, felt that going on this protest was not the right thing. Although everybody have agreed that there's hunger in the land and that those who are going for the protest have a right to do it. But because of the division among different individuals as to the propriety of the protest or not, and the way it was carried out. Some areas, they had the protest, some areas don't have it. It tends to lead to division within the country. So for President Tinubu to call for national cohesion, that's the right thing. Because if there's no national cohesion, development cannot work well. National cohesion brings unity, brings people together, and in fact, it helps to and leads to economic development, and it raises the consciousness of the people that we are one country. If there is no national cohesion, it will affect development of the country. It will bring a lot of disagreement, and prosperity will elude us because we will not be thinking on the same side. A lot of people will try to sabotage. So for the president to call for national cohesion right now, it shows that he's a statesman. And the speech he gave to us while he was appealing to Nigerians to calm down and call off the protests is very apt. He also confirmed that there is hunger and that people have a right to go on protest. But he barely called that people should do this in a civilized manner so that you don't create destruction of properties like has been done before and in some areas. I think that the call of the president is good, but in this last protest, I would say that there don't seem to be a synchronization between the presidency and the governments, state governments especially. Some governors try their best to ensure that these protests did not take place in their area, by appealing to the conscience of the people, like the Southeast, like in Abuja, where our president, the minister, this Wike, did a lot to appeal to people not to come out, to make people to understand that protests will not be the right thing. Also, in Lagos State, as big as Lagos is, it was very well controlled. This is because the governor also reached out to people in all local governments to appeal for people. Because usually when there's protests like this, Lagos State at the receiving end, a lot of restriction takes place. Like the last ESA's protest, we over 250 brand new buses bought for the common man, for the poor man to use, were destroyed. So the Lagos State governor did a good job. But in some areas, like in Kano, we can understand the Kano State, they are not on the same party with the president. But I think they should have done better because at the end of the day, Kano suffered a lot of losses. And it will affect their businesses and affect the growth of that state. But areas like a lot of states like Nasarawa, where people move from to enter into Abuja. I think some of those governors did not do well. A lot of the states in the north that are of the same party with the president, this seemed to care. Some of the governors all over the country tend to think that, oh, this problem is the problem of the president alone. But it's not the problem of the president alone. It's the problem of the whole country. Because if the protest degenerates and there's a lot of destruction, in the country, and you see people going up and down, some calling for military rule. We don't understand whether they were too young to know, how bad the military rule is. Most of them don't even know the effort that Nigerians put to be able to drive the military back to barracks. Some of them are saying, oh, we want Russian, we're waving Russian flag. Why? They know that Russia is not a democracy. Nigeria is a democracy. So a lot of this helps to destroy national cohesion. So the president calling for understanding and that there's need for national cohesion is good. But if you look at the speech of the president, we appeal to Nigerians. One speech cannot satisfy everybody. A lot of people say, oh, the speech was not far-reaching enough. But I tell people, I say, read that speech again. That speech is carrying out activities that can lead to national cohesion. For instance, there are some things the president told us. Yeah. Well, I wanted to say some of the things. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being elaborate. So having said all that you have just said, how do we ensure a sustained peaceful coexistence in the country moving forward?
Good. The way to ensure is for everybody to realize that the country belongs to all of us. It's like the 5 fingers of a hand. If one of them is cut off, the pain from that one will affect the remaining one. If we notice that, then all local government, all state governors, no matter the party you are, we have to try to create unity to ensure that there's no problem in an area. For instance, you have Boko Haram affecting a lot of states. And even the states is not affecting, we feel the impact because it reduces to reduction in national productivity. Some of the things that the president talked about are the ways to bring everybody together. For instance, giving student loans, 46 billion naira have been provided for student loan. And also another amount, 50 billion of the amount realized from corrupt officers is also being added. So if students are having loans around the whole country, it brings a kind of national cohesion. Also, the sum of $630 million, which converted us into billions of naira, that the government is providing for people who are talented, skillful in computer and other things, to enable the setup. All this will lead to national cohesion because if everywhere SMEs are coming up, at least another issue is the 200 billion naira that the president have marked for as a credit scheme. In other words, any common Nigerian who does not have money can go to a supermarket, he can go to a shopping center, you can buy a fan, you can buy a television, you can buy a radio, you can even buy you can even buy a motorcycle, you can even buy a car through that 200 billion naira at very low interest rate. If this is being done around the country, everywhere in the country, people will be happy. And like the kind of money the president has provided to the states to ensure that agriculture is revamped, that every state participates in agriculture. Once this is being done, it brings a sense of belonging. So what the president is doing is, of course, he should see what he can do for the whole nation so that people can overcome this present hunger that is disturbing everywhere. If people in Sokoto, people in Calabar, see that the president is really showing interest in their progress, showing interest to ensure that the hunger is removed, it brings national cohesion.
All right.
Yes.
I mean, you're a politician, and you're a politician and an experienced one. So what is the role of the political class in national cohesion? And I'm asking this question because about 2 days ago, I was speaking with Professor Mohammed Baba, who is the secretary of Arewa Consultative Forum. about the aftermath and consequences of the violent protests we saw in Kano, Kaduna. And one of the major takeaways from that conversation is that politicians must know when to move on after they lose an election. Because the general belief is that Nigerian politicians are bad losers. I mean, even after the 2023 elections was validated by the Supreme Court, some candidates would not give up or wait for 2027. They continue to use their supporters to cause tension, and stakeholders believe the outcome is the protest we saw. Honorable Ogene, as an experienced politician who has also lost an election, I mean, you've tasted the good and bad. How hard is it for a typical Nigerian politician to move on after losing an election?
Yeah, I thank you for that question, because in this very protest that happened, we find out that statesmen, governors, you know, in different states seem to be indifferent to what is happening, especially those who lost out. Even in the parties that, you know, within the APC, you find out that the governors, some of them did not do well enough. And you find out that even areas where people belong to other parties, they still believe that the president that is ruling now is not the president who was. Some PDP members, some Labour Party members, they believe that with this protest, they could lead to a regime change. And I think this attitude is not good. Election is every 4 years. When you lose election, you move on. I have won election in House of Rep twice in Lagos, and when this third one, I lost it, I congratulated my opponent immediately. People say, oh, go to court, go to tribunal. I said, no, I'm not going to tribunal. Election have been won and lost, and let us move on. So I congratulated my opponent. But not many people do that. Many people will still be looking for miracle. After INEC have declared they be loser, they've looked at the result, polling unit by polling unit, and they found out that they don't win the election. They still believe that the election was rigged. And they still hoping and praying that the person who is declared the winner does not perform well. You know, all you can do is to wait for another 4 years. And the supporters, I was watching the program a few days ago when one person was saying, oh, Tinubu did not win the election. It's also a person that's supposed to win. And the man told him, look, the result have been declared. They went to court, appeal court, Supreme Court. These two courts have Nigeria from all over the country. It's not from one tribe. They all declared that Bola Tinubu is the winner of the election. But there are some people still sitting down in their house, still sitting down in their offices, who believe that Tinubu did not win the election. You know? So as a result, there's this animosity, and they are happy to encourage people to go out and move against the government. Let us protest. Of course, the protest is not bad, because people are really hungry. Things are bad, and people can express this. But the violence that followed it in a lot of areas, and the kind of activity carried out, saying, oh, let military rule come, oh, let's go to Russia, oh, we need regime change. It shows you that Nigerians are not willing to move on after they lose election. So my appeal is that the 2023 election have come and gone. There's no way you can change it again. If the Supreme Court, appeal court have ruled, and the Supreme Court have concurred that a particular person won that election, all you need to do is to wait for another 4 years. But for you to join to see how we can destabilize the government, it doesn't work. And looking at some of the program of Mr. President, we're very confident that in the next 3 years, some of the action of the president will become fruitful. I'm confident that price of food will come down, you know, drastically, because president is putting investment. But my only call is that governors and local government chairmen should also do the same thing. Protest should not be against Mr. President only. If in your state you find out that your governor is not doing well, protest against the governor of your state. Protest against your local government. But for everybody in 6 states to focus, and MCT to focus on only the president, it looks funny. Look at the fact now. Look at the money some governments are getting. Some people were getting just like state government that were getting just 4 billion naira. Some of them are now getting 50 billion naira. Some who were getting only 10 billion, they are getting 20-something, so 30-something, 40-something billion naira through a federation account on a monthly basis. You should hold your governors accountable to find out from them, what are you doing with all this money that is coming? Now the president, through his effort and his attorney general, this local government are now going to receive money directly. So the local government will have enough funds to carry out their program. People should hold their local government also responsible. Food, for instance, every government has Minister of Agriculture. And as your government, your Minister of Agriculture, the billions allocated there, what are they doing with them? The federal president has said he wants 10 million hectares of land to be farmed, and is providing the resources to the state. It is duty of the state government to ensure that this money goes to the farmers and food is produced. A situation where the whole country be waiting for food to come from northwest, it's not the right thing. So I think that we need national cohesion. We need everybody to come together. The conspiracy will not change anything. It will not help the country. But if everybody can come together, knowing that this country belongs to all of us, we've done the election, and election has passed, let us work hard to take care of our people. It is good. But Nigerians also realize that there's other governments. It's not only the federal government. If foods are expensive in your area, hold your governor responsible.
I'm happy you initiated that conversation about holding state governors accountable, because it looks like I'm talking too much about holding these people accountable. But constitutionally, are there other ways the president can get across to the people in various states without state governors?
Yes. Well, it is difficult because you have state governors who are in charge of the states. You have local government. It is very difficult for Mr. President to reach everybody. That's why you see that President is providing resources through the various state governors. For instance, look at the CNG gas that the President have introduced. And the President have said that with it, the amount of money that people will be spending on transportation will be reduced by over 60%. And besides that too, the amount of dollar that will be spending on petrol, importation of petrol, will be very minimal. So the dollar will not rebound. For instance, the president told us something. He said 97% of the revenue of Nigeria was being spent on paying debts. Most of it was coming from petroleum subsidy. If you earn 100,000 naira, out of the 100,000 naira, you spend 97,000 naira to pay debts, and you have only 3,000 naira for yourself. The person will starve. So Nigeria generally was starving. So when the president decided to remove the subsidy, we can understand the reason. If the president did take this far-reaching decision, this country would have crumbled, Look at the foreign exchange situation. At the time the president took it, $5 billion was being owed various foreigners, various people who are bringing it, And then because of that, the airlines were being owed money. They were charging Nigeria double the money they were to fly abroad. But the president, they paid the $5 billion. And when a government has just come in, pays $5 billion like that, of course, the naira must devalue. But going forward, I'm convinced that the project of the Mr. President will bring the value of the dollar is going to come down. So what I think is that Mr. President be there for just about 1 year. Let's give him time. He has realized and is aware that there's hunger, in the land. The president hosted the Innocent Motors a few days ago. And, he encouraged him. And Innocent Motors said, look, we'll provide more CNG buses to give to the masses. And things will become better. The only thing we need to be patient and collaborate with Mr. President. Yes, thank you.
All right. Tonight we're talking about national cohesion. We're talking about unity of purpose and national integration. As a former member of the House of Representatives, what is the role of the National Assembly?
Well, yes. The National Assembly needs to educate people of the nation, especially the 360 members in the House, and then the senators, all represent both senatorial zones and constituencies. They need to go back to educate their people that we are one country. If there's food shortage, some people are suffering one way, it affects others. Another thing they need to do is to also advise Mr. President, what can they do in their area, in collaboration with the governor, to ensure that this banditry is removed. Because in a lot of areas where food comes from, the bandits are not allowed people to farm. And then you see herders to farmers clash. Farmers will plant, the herders will come and eat the crops up. It is the duty of members of the National Assembly to help to educate the herders in the area to have peace, also to educate the farmers. If this is done, it will be better because only one man at the presidency cannot do everything. There are 3 arms of government. And I think that the National Assembly, because they represent the grassroots, they can do a lot of job. They are on recess. You know, during the recess, they can reach out to their people so that people can understand. If they do that well, this unwanted destruction of properties across some areas of the country will not have come up. So National Assembly should team up, just as the governors. The governors need to team up. It doesn't matter whether you are PDP or you are APC, because if civil strike comes in and the government can no more rule, there's anarchy. Of course, whether you are PDP or APC, you are ABGA or you are Labour, you will lose your state. If there's anarchy, you have problem in your state. So everybody have a duty. You know, let's wait. We have a duty to make sure the country is united. There's cohesion, that we do everything together. Then when it comes to election period, of course you can campaign. And if you think the government needs to be changed at that time, you can change the government through ballot box. But let us ensure that there's cohesion. Let everybody come together as one nation. Because whatever affects the north affects the south. Whatever affects the middle belt also affects the terminals or the 6 geopolitical zones in the country. So if we have this feeling of patriotism, take Nigeria first, you know, we'll be able to overcome the problem that is on ground. Mr. President is worried that there's hunger, and everybody agrees that those who went on protest did not do anything bad. It's their constitutional right. But now that the protest is over, let us work together. Let there be cohesion. We should avoid division. And all arms of government, the 744 local governments, the 36 governments, state governments, plus FCT 37, should all work to ensure there is food in the area, to ensure that hunger is reduced, because the extra money they are getting from the removal of fuel subsidy, for the differential of dollars, you know, it's billions. The state government and the local government should plan that up to help the common man, so that everybody, you know, the 230 million people in Nigeria, everybody does not go cap hand, beg, oh, Mr. President, there's hunger, there's hunger. When every state can plant tomato, every state can plant pepper, every state can provide, you know, even during Azikwe's time, during Awolowo's time, we had animal disease in every state. You know, every state was keeping cattle, and we were providing sorry. Yes, so this is the thing.
Let's dig deeper. Let's dig deeper, because, you know, some Nigerians say another major task in front of Mr. President is this prevalence of bribery and corruption, particularly in the country's public sector. They consider it as very huge. I mean, you talk about slot selling, which has become a norm in many government parastatals or establishments. And this is one of the many reasons why young Nigerians are leaving. You hear young Nigerians complain of how you have to know certain persons in government establishment before you can get a job. They consider this as a systemic rot that smears the integrity of public service in Nigeria. What challenge does this pose to nation building? Yeah, corruption is a terrible worm that has eaten the fabric of this nation. And if the corruption level of corruption continues, no country can survive that. But in Mr. President's speech, he realized that there was a place where he said 50 billion naira realized from proceeds of corruption, realized for corrupt officers, is part of the money they also adding for loans for students to go to school. So if the president can put that in speech that 50 billion that was recovered will now be put for education, it shows that the president knows that corruption is a bad thing. But to fight corruption, if we take more than the president, the National Assembly must be involved. Of course, police must be involved. The judiciary must be involved. And if I let it involve everybody, you know, sometimes people think that corruption is only government officials. In universities, there's corruption. Student unionism, there's corruption. The youths of these days,
you find out that all they think about, we can make money, is corruption. They believe that anybody who has made money is corrupt. We must change our mindset from it. And that is why I'm happy that $630 million have been provided for youth who can use their brain to think and set up industries. I will encourage all youth in Nigeria to read the president's speech and key into it. There are a lot of areas they can benefit. Apart from the 200 billion naira they can use to buy things, the 630 billion naira is money billion. $630 million, which runs into billion naira of naira when converted, is another thing they can key into and get money for SMEs. Because when they get the money, when they key into it and invest in computer or other things, they could make money through it. So Nigerians need to be told that you can make money without being involved in corruption. In fact, the president has said the note, there are, so if you read that speech, there are so many things there for the youth where they can apply to get money to do business, apply to get money to strengthen what they are doing, and people can get rich without being corruption. But I think that the president and National Assembly needs to fight corruption a bit more than they are doing right now, and the trial of corrupt politicians need to be made quicker. For instance, Governor Bello of Kogi State, up to that, they've not been able to lay hold of him. Some people say it's a government house. Some say I've run out of the country. Nobody knows.
All right.
Recently,
talk about the role of the National Assembly in fighting corruption. But let's go on a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about whether or not the EFCC has lived up to expectations. We'll be right back.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello, what time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. Tonight, our focus is on national cohesion as President Bola Tinubu urges collaborative efforts in rebuilding Nigeria. And I've been speaking with Honorable Ogene Ego. He's a former member of the Federal House of Representatives and also a former member of ECOWAS Parliament. Honorable, thank you very much for staying with us on the program. Before we went on break, we were talking about tackling corruption. I mean, since the establishment of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, for you, has the agency lived up to expectation? Are the anti-corruption agencies doing enough to investigate and prosecute corruption in the public sector?
Yeah, like I said, sometimes tackling corruption, there is delay in prosecution, and that's because of our system. But we need to ramp up how these cases come to court. And then, of course, we were talking about the National Assembly just before we went on break. The National Assembly, they have an oversight function on virtually every ministry. If a contract is awarded and the job is not done, National Assembly can go on inspection to determine the extent of work done, whether the work is not being done. If there are reports of corrupt cases, the National Assembly has a right to investigate that. You know, the Constitution gives them power to do that. So the National Assembly should use their power more on how to fight corruption, because right now, Nigerians don't have much confidence. They believe that much of what government is doing, however well intended, corruption is involved. And I think that if the National Assembly put more effort in their investigative work on various government parastatals and ministries, you know, of course, people, the Nigerians, will have more confidence in the nation. But I think that the private sector, you know, needs to be a big driver of economic revamping, of creation of wealth. Because right now, there are no jobs. Unlike in those days when we finish school, you just write an application and you get a job. In those days, we were changing jobs anyhow, just by writing an application, because there were enough jobs. But now the jobs are very few. And that is why I say that this provision of several billions of naira by Mr. President to encourage you to set up private companies, to encourage you to be involved in wealth creation and digital development is going to be good, so that people can remove their mind from this attitude of feeling that it's only when you are corrupt that you can be rich. In America, in China, you know, in Germany, so many billionaires who are making it without corruption. Look at the biggest of this world. You know, look at the man who set up Tesla. A lot of them made their money just by creativity. And the government is already setting up avenues and creating free loans, some of it is grant, for people to apply so that they can set up, so that people can know you can make money without being corrupt. But I think that we also need to strengthen our laws, you know, more. When you leave government, of course, you declare your asset. But let there be a follow-up, especially those who are involved in department where billions have been, a lot of money was being disbursed. You know, the EFCC and the various government agencies needs to investigate them. And the National Assembly also needs to ask questions. When some money is allocated to a particular area and you don't see the result, they should ask questions. You know, we used to ask questions while we are there, but I know that the current National Assembly, they are doing very well. The Speaker is a man who wants Nigeria to really develop. He's a very articulate man. And I know that if he finds out that there's corruption anywhere, of course, we set up the necessary committee to ensure that such will be probed. So, but the mindset of Nigeria is that there's so much corruption. But I know that the National Assembly is doing so much to stamp out corruption. So,
because Nigerians, you know, the Nigerians see members of the National Assembly, or they see the National Assembly as a corrupt and frivolous institution. But we'll come back to that. Let's talk about federal character principle, which historically guarantees a sense of national integration and inclusiveness. How has the president fared so far in his appointment?
Well, I think the president have done very well in his appointment. If you look at his appointment, you see people from the north, from the south, from all the six political zones. They have all been appointed in the president's, the very appointment that the president have done. It will be difficult for a president to be able to make it exact number from every state. Don't forget that there are people who also work with Mr. President during the campaign. And there are people who work with him in policy making, who, having worked with them, believes that these people are good. And he needs them to make his government to succeed. So sometimes when you have such people, even though a few of them may come from a particular area, you have no option that to pick them. Because if you don't pick them, the kind of government you want to run, the sources you want to make, we elude you. But on overall, I think the president should be giving kudos, you know, on the appointment that he has made. If you look at the appointment that the president made and compare it to the previous regime, you will say that the president have done quite fair. But we still need to check regularly. Those in charge need to check regularly. If they find out that certain part of the country or certain states have been shortchanged, of course, they should bring this to the notice of the president so that the president can change this. The president doesn't really need people who are bootlicker or people who just praise him. Oh, Mr. President, you have done well. We should be able to tell the president the truth, that on the area of Federal Character Commission, you have not done well in this area. And I'm sure the president that I know, with his experience, will say, okay, let's look at it. They are under position. Let's give to them. So I think that the president have done well. But again, you look at the ministers. You know, a lot of ministers have capacity, and those who are in charge of employment at the federal level also have capacity to employ people. They also, we need to beam the torchlight on them so that they can honor the federal character law to ensure that people from all parts of the country are employed, so that it will not be lopsided. Right. But by and large, on the issue of employment, I think that is more the private sector that will be the driving force. And the encouragement Mr. President is giving to people to set up SME is very good. Now, as a young man in Nigeria, you can no more cry to say, oh, you want to set up an industry, you don't have money. You know, a few weeks ago, I saw a video that went viral. Somebody in the East, you know, was able to create a small plane. It was flying and landing. There was one that was done in Delta State too. You know, such people should be able to apply to the digital, this is where $620 million will be provided. And if they apply, I'm sure their loan, you know, will be favorably looked into, single-digit loan. Some of it is grant, so that they can set up and then grow the economy.
Because of our time,
I think that Nigeria, with our size, we need to ensure that all parts of the country, you know, are taken care of, rather than only a section of the country be favored.
Okay. Now, Nigerians are asking Mr. President to address the insensitive lifestyles and attitudes of elected representatives and other public officials. And like I said earlier, you know, Nigerians do not trust the National Assembly sufficiently. You're a former member. They believe there is no attempt on their part to cut costs. So it was interesting to see members of the House of Reps agree to donate 50% of their salaries for a period of 6 months to assist the federal government in addressing the economic situation in the country. Though some Nigerians say we want a deduction of their allowances, not their salaries. But I mean, for a lot of Nigerians, that's a good step from them. But what do you expect of the Senate?
Yeah. Well, I think that it was very thoughtful of the National Assembly to have donated part of their salary. It shows that the National Assembly too, they appreciate the suffering Nigerians are going through. And the inflation on Nigerian money is also affecting what the National Assembly members are earning. And if they agree to donate a part of it, we should applaud it that they have done something. You know, I'm sure that with the speaker that the House of Rep has, you know, they can collaborate with the Senate and ensure that the cost of running the National Assembly is reduced to the minimum so that more money can be available for the development of the country. But let me say one thing, as a former member of the National Assembly, the job of a National Assembly member is a very difficult one. It's not like a minister. A minister did not ask for vote, so people are not coming to you. But when you're a member of the National Assembly, everybody comes to you. Everybody is sick. Even me that I've left the National Assembly for over a year now, today alone, I know how many number of people have called me, sent messages to say, oh, they are sick. Oh, the current rain have blown off their roof. Some say water entered their house. They want to rent a new house. Some of them, their wall is broken. They want to rebuild it. And they believe that even somebody who have left office for over a year still have money to support them. So you can imagine the pressure on Nigerians. But all this is because there is poverty in the land. I'm sure that when things improve and the level of poverty reduces, the pressure on the National Assembly will be lower. At that time, Nigeria can say, look, let's look at what National Assembly members are earning, put the allowances. Let us cut it, you know. But as it is now, I can say for free that National Assembly members are also sacrificing a lot, you know, to ensure that
Honorable Nigerians don't
the national
Nigerians
budget,
do not think they are doing enough. Honorable Egon, Nigerians do not think they are doing enough because, I mean, like I said earlier, Nigerians see the National Assembly as a corrupt and frivolous institution. And I know you would not blame Nigerians for that because rep members have accused their leaders of budget padding, siphoning funds meant for constituency projects. And to crown it all, Nigerians also believe that former President Buhari's huge party debit profile was enabled by the Ninth Assembly. So agreeably, these issues have contributed to this trust deficit. You say the 10th Assembly is dry, but how do you think the current leadership should change this perception?
Well, let me say that the National Assembly is hearing. You know, they are researched, they've gone to their constituencies, and they are hearing the complaints of members. I will agree with you, the ways and means, you know, of 20-something, 25, 29 billion that was just passed by the National Assembly without scrutiny was very bad, because that's one of the things that is creating inflation in the country. But I think that with the complaints that Nigerians are making, you know, the Speaker of the House, whom I know is a very patriotic Nigerian, and then the Senate President, will be hearing this, and I'm sure by the time they review from recess, they will look at all these complaints that Nigerians are making, because they represent the people. And I'm sure that even in their constituency, people are talking to them, that these are the feelings of Nigeria. They are watching television, they are reading the newspapers, they are reaching the social media to see what Nigerians are complaining about. And I'm sure that as they come back from recess, they are going to think about what to do to make Nigerians happy. Because if you are representing people and the people are complaining regularly about how you are representing them, of course you must sit down, because you want to come back again. If you don't listen to them, of course the next time they will not vote you in. But I think that sometimes the complaints about the National Assembly is over-exaggerated. You know, it's over-exaggeraggerated. It's not as rosy as it is, as people think. People believe that once you're a National Assembly member, you are a billionaire. No, it's not like that.
Well, out of time, I would have loved to have you talk more on why you think these complaints are exaggerated. But quickly, as the first non-indigene to win a House of Rep seat in Lagos, I mean, many thought you would stay in the PDP to wrestle power with the ruling party. Honorable, why did you defect to the APC, and what next for you?
Well, I had to move to the APC because the party PDP in Lagos is so disorganized. You know, there's so much quarrel everywhere, even up to the local government. You make efforts to see whether peace can come in. It doesn't happen. And as a politician, you want to represent your people. And if your people say, hey, let us move, of course you have to move. You will notice that when I move, the local government chairman, the local government secretary, the treasurer, the youth, the woman leader, the financial secretary, the health official, even the state officers, and our House of Assembly candidate, all of them move with me. So you see, the decision of my movement is not a one-man decision. It's our people that came together to say, look, this party, the way it's been run, we cannot stay there. And then we have to move. And one other reason why we move also is we looked at it. We have a president that comes from Lagos State. And as a president who comes from Lagos State, he's doing a lot to help us in Lagos State. Look at the 10 Mainland Bridge, what he has done. Look at the coastal road he's doing. It's going to benefit us in Lagos. So if the presidency remains in Lagos, it's good for us. And we felt that
so what next for you,
the best we can do to help.
We have to go. But what next for you? What's next?
For the moment, all I'm doing is keying into the president's Renew Hope agenda, and let us take it from there. You know, I'm sure that Mr. President is going to do a lot of good things for the country. If we can help to achieve stability, price of things can come down, and the common man stop crying of hunger, at least our movement would have been justified.
Fantastic. Great conversation tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been speaking with Honorable Ogene Ego, former member, House of Representatives, and is also a former member ECOWAS Parliament. Thank you so much for your perspectives tonight, and we wish you the very best in your future political endeavor. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at midnight. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News and Olajumoke WO using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also on YouTube. It's youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I am Olajumoke.